chest and trying, my husband trying to, we'd alternate and help each other. And that work was a beautiful work, very hard work. Is work. It's like national service, so everybody has an experience. Military's not for everybody. Part of something that yourself is hard with people you don't already know. And if we have that, we'll have more trust. Where do you find this one?
I start with Kamala. I learned a lot about where she come from.
Yeah.
And her parents and context. What about your early context that as Mayor Pete, so Secretary Pete, and potentially someday President Pete?
Well, my dad came to have a better life here. Not exactly in a rags to riches sense. He came from a middle and the tiny country. And the way he tells the story is that he knew that he wanted to come to the U.S. and go to grad school, and he had a mentor to stay here. I can promise you that you will be.
I have no idea.
And he said,
but I think he was supposed to be president. He wanted to. Oh, he
did? This is a
did?
great way to think about it. And that's exactly what he did.
I never heard of that. Yeah, I know he's a Democrat, but he's been going off on Trump the whole time.
A full cart that's lighter up, that's a breath of fresh air. Download the Upside app and get a $15 bonus on your first purchase.
You've got too many books and games, and you still have keywords. This book, I'm listing it by title, author, and category. Basically, the keywords that people search for. Step 2, condition, barely used. So I'm going with very 3, price. Check what similar items are selling for the app. Then set the price to about 10 to 15%. That way, you've got room to negotiate. That's it. And your item is live for millions.
Has got to be one of the best investing apps if you don't know how to invest. It's called Acorns, and despite the general consensus, no, you don't need to be rich. $1,000 just from $5. Don't have $5? Just use Acorns roundups on just your spare change. Don't wait any longer to start investing. Download Acorns today.
Now after Obama having 8 years, now you control country now. Come back 4 years later after.
And he had a mentor who said,
Where you was
stay here,
No, 8 years.
I can promise you that you will be
Trump
a big fish in this
all the way back.
And he said,
If you want, you can rest.
medium-sized fish in a very big
They know the truth is the truth.
way to think about
More people in this country of
and that's
color,
exactly what he did. He went to grad school
gay people,
in Binghamton,
than
New York.
anybody else.
And then he
Oh,
got a
especially
job in
white
Mexico,
people, there's
Las
more
Cruces
that than anybody else, right? So
teaching
this Obama won 2 terms,
linguists.
and they had to stop this.
They got married, and then the first
Then
good job he got was
Biden come and just
University
wins took
of, in South Carolina. I moved there and finished in that. So I grew up with parents who cared a lot about literature and learning, and they cared a lot about politics. We weren't like politically connected. I don't think I ever met an elected official while I was a child. But I grew up with this sense that it was very important to everything in the world. My dad was always reading the newspaper, the TV was always tuned to the news. It was just a sense like that.
After a president, he did a whole insurrection thing and all this craziness, 30 felonies or whatever, all that. And people still, like I said, there's more of everything else than it is white country. It's a fact.
And I had this
If it really wasn't, no way Obama would have won 2 terms. No way.
our neighbor to one side, like carpet.
They had to put a
and
stop.
across from us were
They let Biden, this guy, he's white.
waiting on corners and nurse had said
They did this,
down the night to the hospital, a couple blocks away.
And
And
she a woman.
I felt like the texture of that neighborhood really belonged to me. But at the same time, like, I also felt and knew that I was different. Like, this was before it was like, that was like a weird
She
thing
should.
that my dad did.
I don't know why
They
she
just show it, you got a
she
little
would
thing you
win
put on the stove.
a couple of years if she so silent.
Like Starbucks became a thing.
She's silent.
And then the
Like,
surrounding.
and this is why Trump.
the city of South
No,
Bend.
that's why I say
People know that
he
he,
really
he,
won. He didn't stop.
But the other thing that was there was
He didn't
this
stop.
was as big a car.
He
company
kept
as
going.
Ford in its day.
I didn't hear
It
from
was stopped making
Camilla since
cars
she
in
lost.
1963. They just couldn't quite innovate and keep up with the company collapse.
He kept going.
That was a
He
catastrophic thing
still was in the
for the
news.
city.
He still was
The city lost
campaigning
a big chunk of its population.
until he got back in there.
Never really recovered. And when I was a kid, I didn't really know any different. I didn't realize it was unusual that
That's one thing I can say about Trump.
that hadn't been.
He has something
operating
that a lot of people. He's
decades
determined.
in some cases. It looked like they'd been hit with war.
Yeah, whatever
Big
he
giant
wants to do,
structures
he's
falling
determined
apart.
to make it happen.
All
He
over
don't
the
care.
city. I'd see him get out to my dad's Chevy driving me to school. And gradually, as I grew up, I put the pieces together.
He has about
What it meant
60
to
years.
live in a place whose best economic days had
He
been
didn't
behind
build
it.
the ego for 60
And the
years.
message that I got, the kind of lesson that I was given was, I don't know if anybody said this to me in a sentence, but the world kind of said to me is if you want to be something, go be someone. You know?
It is. The boldness he has.
I mean, that's the irony. You know, he's this very worldly man, got all of the world. He chose to live in South Bend. He died in South Bend. Where he lived his life. But I don't know. You just get this sense.
And he's using it in racist ways.
I got into Harvard.
Like he's coming at the way he talks about the IRA
And then
the people.
immediately I
It's like,
understand that that's
dude.
from somewhere in a way that I didn't understand when I was growing up. I started to feel this kind of
no.
loyalty. It's kind of like almost
Oh, that's
loyalty.
how true it is.
Partly because I heard ways.
Y'all are really killing innocent people. You're not even really killing the people y'all really hate.
Yeah, it's just right about the moment that I was announcing.
That's the shit that killed me about war when they go to these dumbass wars. Y'all not even going after the people y'all hate. Y'all are just going after
In
innocent
September,
people.
and we knew that it was pretty rough. And he
And
passed
then
away.
y'all say, oh yeah, fuck this person or
Yeah,
that.
and it was.
But then
No,
y'all still got an enemy.
Stabilizing in the lead up to the most consequential decision.
Yeah, I mean, this really. And we were close. I moved into a house that was on the line. As our parents.
I just feel like, man, you gotta.
Home for dinner every Sunday night.
It's either you want to be rich or
Coming
poor,
out.
man. Sure.
And then have
And on the rich side of things, I
Pass
don't
away.
care who president is. It's
just
always
as
good.
good.
It's, I don't care who president is never good or on the poor side of things.
Remember some.
I don't care who the president is.
I saw some email I sent at like 3:30 in the morning to
That's how I feel.
someone on the staff, like it was gone. I think it was city staff, because the other thing was I was still there. So I was running the city, facing my father's
Yeah.
house. During that period, my mother had a heart attack and heart surgery.
But I also
And then
believe
launching
that
this
if you really
campaign,
want
like
change,
all within
you have to
really few weeks with each other.
like willing to die for that.
So no,
If you really want change in the world, or you don't want to
Platform
in
has
the
to
world,
say,
you have
how
to
do
willing
you
to
deal
die
with
for that.
the noise?
It's gonna cost something, man.
I don't know, strategy is the word.
What happened?
My way.
They don't,
First of all,
don't like
I
you.
What's the next lavish?
all this happened. Yeah, we got married in 20.
A couple
And
times.
all of this happened toward the end of 2019. So we hadn't been
Killed Charlie
married when one of us guessed on our first date, or even when we got married, that this was happening.
What is I've got lots of friends who've been on the journey of sort of discovering their sexual orientation at a young age and then going through the process of being comfortable enough in their environment to announce it to the world. How does that, what's the sort of the journey of you knowing who you are and then feeling comfortable enough to announce? How do I put together the picture of like how your parents understood that, how the world understood that, how you understood that? And also, I guess the other question that I have is like, American politics.
Yeah.
How does that understand it? You've got the right, the left. How do you think about all of that at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to believe we'll get to a day when it's just not a thing. No one cares. And it doesn't affect your career. It doesn't affect your opportunities in life. It just is what it is. That's how I feel it should be. But, you know, that's not how it was or how it is. I mean, when I was commissioned into the Navy, where it was still the law of the land, but if I was known to be gay, I'd be fired, right? That I was gay. At what age? When I was well into my 20s. I wanted so not to be true that even though obviously I was the whole time, and working through that took most of my 20s. I finally kind of came to terms with it. It was also around the time that I was running for mayor, and maybe because maybe in some ways that helped professionally. Energy, you know. But I remember when I realized I was going in, I realized it was important that I kind of finish the process of coming out to myself, which meant to somebody else. That was what kind of marked it, you know. And so I had a conversation with a close and trusted friend, and I remember part of his reaction was to say, you know, to joke that like you didn't exactly make it easy on yourself, because, well, you know, my whole professional life had two parts. One was being a Navy officer, when that could be career ending, and the other was being an elected official in Indiana, which was well on its way to getting a reputation as maybe the most anti-gay state in the country. Like Pence hadn't yet become governor, but he soon would. On one level, I was a piece of this family, but I also
They
knew
don't
it
like
could be a
nobody.
limiting
You ain't
factor.
white.
So I kept it to myself.
They
A long time.
automatically on the other side to them.
And then I just hit a point where I couldn't do that anymore. And then it was time to come out. Because, well, the thing that really put me over, I was already the mayor, but like a lot of people in the reserve, you leave your day job to go when you get called up. So when you deploy into a war zone, they tell you right away, just in case you don't come back, which I did. And in that process, you're kind of taking stock of your life. You're thinking about what you want to say to who you love most if you don't come back. And that was kind of the moment that really was the final moment where I just thought, here I am, I'm taking stock of my life, I have a great life, but I'm a grown man in a position of responsibility, I'm a homeowner, I'm going to be a veteran, I don't know what it's like to be in love. And I just thought that's untenable. And so I promised myself that if I and the problem was there was a re-election coming up, but I didn't want to have to wait until I'd been re-elected. So I figured out a way to come out. And I was kind of resentful of the idea that I even had to, like straight people don't have to come out. But I knew that if I just tried to just like show up at some Chamber of Commerce dinner and my date was a dude that night, like that was just not, I couldn't do it that way. And I didn't want to be like, quote unquote, found out. Like I definitely didn't want to be hiding it. But I wanted to start dating.
What about your parents?
I remember it was weird because again, I knew that they were forward thinking, I knew they were accepting, I knew how much they loved me. But it took me a while to be ready to come out to them. And I did, you know, like I said, I used to go home for Sunday dinner every night. And I was home for Sunday dinner one night, kind of pushing my ice cream around the toilet in the bowl and just thinking about it. And then I just took a deep breath and it's just like, I gotta tell you something. And yeah, as I expected, like they, you know, applauded in love and acceptance. Everybody gets to expect that, so I'm thankful for that. My dad was immediately worried about what it might mean for my future. Not in a way that he was trying to like talk me out of anything, he just thought about that and talked about it. My mom wanted to get somebody. I think she had her eyes on, maybe becoming her grandma for a long time. I wasn't dating anybody, but I don't know, it was probably within a year of that I brought Chasten home for Sunday dinner for the first time and watched him hit it off with my parents. Which is just like everything about that scene at dinner was just not a thing that I could have thought was possible. Just a few years before it happened.
By the way, I just want to say that's really beautiful. I think you probably don't realise the net impact that decision had on many, many people who are contending with their own sexuality by being both a politician. I think you were the first person in a presidential candidate to be openly gay.
Definitely the first person who's considered to have a shot. Yeah. I mean, not that I was considered to have a shot when I started.
Yeah. I think in the same way that Obama paved the way for lots of people to what was possible for them because of their identity, I think you certainly did. And I think it's a weird word to say courageous or brave, as yourself.
Yeah, it was a personal decision.
But I think that when there's consequence, and there's obvious consequence, and you do something irrespective of that, I do consider it to be very admirable in that regard. We have a closing tradition to these questions for next, not knowing who they're leaving it for. The question left for you: what is the thing that the world needs to hear right now, that it maybe doesn't want to hear, that is uncomfortable but necessary?
Find kids with the knife.
I think it's that it doesn't have to be the way it is, but we have to do the hard things to change it. Like, people can feel that things can't go on like this. And I go all around the country reminding people that it doesn't have to be like this. But it's not going to change on its own. Like, you can't just sit back and let some pattern or some or some technology just like come save the day. It doesn't work that way. Everybody's got to be part of it. Everybody's going to have to give a little something up. And if we do it, it'll be great. But hard things are hard.
One of the things that between you and others, is I think you are most willing to go and talk to the other side.
Yeah.
Just before you arrived here, you were actually over at Fox News.
Yeah.
And I think that's also something that both political sides haven't always wanted to do for talking about the things that are not nice to hear, is you actually have to go talk to your quote-unquote enemies or adversaries, or those are totally against you. And I applaud you for really leading the way there, and you do a remarkable job of it because you're so bloody articulate and smart. But I think that's something important.
I think it's like good politics is about counter. Like, it's about encountering doing this if you're only talking to people who already agree with you. So yeah, to me, it's a very natural part of the job. I get why it's hard. I get why not everybody does it. But to me, it's one of the most important ways to earn my keep.
Thank you for doing that, because it's wonderful to see the, I'd say, conflict of ideas in public. Well, it's wonderful to see you going to the other side. And I know you've been on a bit of a tour of red states recently doing exactly that. I wish more politicians would do that, because we get to see those ideas that often exist on extreme poles collide, and we get to remind them.
Thank you.
I think it's really, really remarkable. And the values that you have, I also respect a huge amount. So thank you for being here, and I appreciate your generosity.
Thanks for having me.
YouTube have this new crazy to watch next based on AI and all of your viewing behavior. And the algorithm says that this video is the perfect different for everybody looking right. Check this video out. I bet you might love it.
Everyone deserves a better, healthier energy drink that works with your metabolism. And that's exactly what Ketone IQ Clean has. Ketones your body naturally produces when your brain and your muscles have long-lasting energy. And now, with green tea, you can in one shot. Here's why that matters. Ketones deliver more energy than sugar directly from your brain.
What's up, bro?
Meanwhile, green tea caffeine provides an immediate no crash jitters. The result is sharper mental clarity, stronger focus, and elevated athletic. That's not just fast, but efficient. Ketone IQ with clean caffeine is high performance for your brain and body. Go ahead. Take your shot, okay?
It's a hack. It is the hack. It's the only one. And here's what I mean by the average family retires with about $3,000 in the retirement. That's two people, two incomes, 40 years working for me, just to save up $336,000. This one house that I bought with no cash of my own, no bank loan, no credit check, no bank statements, zero tax returns. I've never had a W-2 in my entire life. This one house made me double the average American savings in 5 years. One house, 5 years. I want to show you how I'm doing this. I want to show you how I'm doing this in all 50 states plus 20 states and how you can do this too. It's called Creative Finance. My name is Pace Morby. I've got a show on TV called Triple Digit Flip, and I've been doing real estate all over the country with 15,000 students of mine that are doing the same thing. If you want to see a case study on how I'm doing this, click the link down below.
Ninja trader, futures trading. Install and go.
Owning real estate is the hack. It is the hack. What I mean by that, the average family, $336,000 in the retirement. That's two people, two incomes, 40 years working for a company, just to save up $336,000. This one house that I bought with no cash in my own, no bank loan, no credit check, no bank statements, and zero tax. I've never had a W-2 in my entire life. This one house made me double the average American savings in 5 years. One house, 5 years. I want to show you how I'm doing this. I want to show you how I'm doing this in all 50 states plus 29 other countries and how you can do this too. It's called Creative Finance. My name is Pace Morby. I've got a show. And I've been doing real estate all over the country, 15,000 students of mine that are doing the same thing. If you want to see a case study on how I'm doing this, click the link down below.
Mommy, stop it. A monster?
Abundance for all.
That's what I thought actually. It struck me that now you seem to have decided it's inevitable, let's hope for the best, and not go for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, yes, pretty much. That's I think my philosophy at this point. Because I mean, honestly, it seems to be just an inexorable progress here in AI and in robots. That even if I wanted to stop it, I couldn't.
Do you think there's a 10 to 20% chance that killer robots mean the end of humanity? And that's a high P-doom, as they say.
Well, in the long run, we're all dead, of course. So I mean, like according to the standard model of physics, is a long, boring, sort of thin, gray soup, gradual cooling. Meaning it's sort of the heat death of the universe is called. So if the heat death of the universe is in fact the outcome for our reality, then it really is all about the journey. Destination.
It's not very, yeah, but that could be a long way ahead. And rockets feel there was a 10 to 20% chance of it blowing up and killing you.
Yes, but let's say you can't do anything about it. I guess the only thing we can try to do is minimize the probability of the bad outcome. Trying to study intelligent robots. I mean, for the longest time, I declined to participate in AI, or was, created OpenAI as a way to Google, because at the time they had more or less a monopoly on it. And then Anthropic spun out of OpenAI. And if anything, it seems like what my actions really accelerate AI. AI, integrating AI, and having Anthropic spin out of that, and now currently Anthropic's the leader in it. I mean, these actions actually was knock-on effects that accelerate AI wasn't really So it's just like all roads lead to acceleration of AI. So then I'm like, okay.
No, actually, but it's something
you can just
wild.
sort of be sad.
They say he's the first
Join the club.
African American.
Well, you certainly joined the club.
Yeah.
Definitely joined the club. Well, you've clearly done that. What about trying to minimize the risks? And, you know, a number of the other leaders of model makers have been pushing for different ways to try and minimize the risks. Just last week, Demis Hassabis came out with a proposal for a private public regulator network. I think you said it was a good starting point for things, I think. Do you think you should working to get something in place to
My recommendation to him, and talking for a few hours before he published his piece, was that
that's what they say. They like he's the first African American.
Have the leading AI companies at least meet, have some sort of call once every few weeks, and just discuss setting security issues. And
somebody gave his father on the plane,
new frontier model is released, so
and he gave the Africa for an emerald mine.
that there's an opportunity
and his
for
father had money.
various competing AI companies to test that model for.
But his father had so much money that he said he was just
and to
going around the world on his boat.
recommend forcing
Just telling him, look at this in the boat for years at time, going around the world.
quick thing that we can do. And it can evolve to more than that.
But from when Elon Musk said, oh, I have no money,
That I think would be a smart move.
why haven't you done that yet? I mean, there's like 5 of you, right? I mean, everyone knows Dario, Demis,
had a
Sam. You
kid
all like
with
each other
one of
very
his
much.
ex-wife's
You're not all competing, right?
Yeah.
You want to be
after they broke up,
That's where I
he
think
got with the kid.
competitors
Had a
keep each other honest. So meaning, like, if I think it's quite difficult for the government who doesn't have a deep technical understanding, isn't driving the point of AI to know whether something should be released. The competitors, I think, can give us a week or two to review a new model issues and have an incentive to keep all the competitors have to keep the others.
Do you have enough between you to do that? I mean, you like each other. Wouldn't Samuel think you're going to nick all his ideas if you did that?
That dress you've been thinking about?
What they call them?
That jacket you saved for later? From vintage finds to everyday favorites, discover great deals on the app.
I never seen that.
Browse, save, and shop from
You never seen them? What, white people that live in South Africa?
Sell and buy pre-loved fashion with free shipping.
Maybe I
Download
haven't,
Vinted
I
today.
don't know it, but I don't recall.
Well, we're just talking
Yep,
about
so
what we honestly, I
200 years from now, the narrative is going to be that
private
first
testing.
African American person had
turn over
this.
the AI. It's just to test it.
Have you proposed?
Yeah, just to test it by I think that would probably be a good thing to do.
Have you proposed it? I mean, you could
That's
presumably
what I
organize
said to Dennis. And I guess I'll talk to Daria about it too. There's also, of course, some very competent Chinese AI companies that several that are very good. The new Kimi model.
Kimi K3, yeah, the one that came out last week is, I mean, it's almost as good as Fable, right? So,
Well, I think realistically, Fable is still the best model. I think anyone realistically would say that that's still the case, but the Kimi model is getting quite close to Fable. Now, Anthropic had Mythos, from which Fable is derived. I think they had that ready in February. So they've got sort of what they call, I'm not sure what they call it, but Mythos 2 or Fable 6 or something much better than what they had in February. They almost certainly have, not almost certainly, they certainly have right now. So, and I think they could release it at any time.
Just before we get on to releasing, how do you think about the Chinese models and the geopolitics of it? Are you worried about the Chinese catching up and getting ahead?
AI companies with a relatively small amount of compute, it seems though that if they had a lot of compute, there's a good chance that they would be the leaders. And at some point, they probably will have more compute.
So they will be the leaders.
There's a good chance that they are the leaders at some point. You can think of like the constraints on AI are essentially electricity and AI chips, and then physically like the robots. China's also got some very good robot companies. In fact, they have these like robot sporting events. I don't know if you've seen some.
Yes, I was in Beijing.
Yeah.
Robots.
Honestly,
the robots are just quite entertaining. I saw some video of a robot that got his head knocked off, kept fighting with his head knocked off. It looked pretty funny, but I mean, in fact, I think the robot battles are going to be entertaining to watch.
Because of all the technology,
China's very strong on robots.
We got most
very strong on digital AI, and
what we really work for.
And if you look at electricity production, you say like it's a function of whatever
everything else
or electricity.
is so much
China has far more
abundance.
electricity than the United States. In fact, China has more electricity than the United States,
Europe,
and India combined already. And it is heading to
It's run by machines.
4 times the
It's
electricity
not really run
production
by people.
of the US, which
Unless
is
you got
roughly
people in the
proportional
call
to the
center, like
population.
it ain't. Or people that gotta go out and repair. It's such a company that
have an authority ahead
owns
most
it.
powerful
It's
technology. And
it's
clearly,
a
what
utility. You know,
the
it's
government's
like
been trying to do is
working
with
in
the export of technology, keep China back. Do you think they should ban the use of communication, for example?
Well, the US government, they can some law that prevents US companies from using these models, but they can't stop the rest of them. So you has authority. I know the rest of the world.
Do you think stop US companies from using them? There's talk of it now, right?
I think that helps. That wouldn't stop China from being the leader in AI.
Like about everything right now.
For digital intelligence, it comes down to
really
how many computers do you have, how many chips do you have, and how much power do you have, how much electricity you have. So the constraint right now is actually slightly more on cooling than on AI chips because the power demands of AI chips are very high. So water demands, but the water use of AI is almost nothing. But the electrical demand is very high.
That's why you're thinking of orbital data center.
Yes, the constraint for any AI chips not being turned on in China is electricity, like power and cooling, and the electrical and everything. The rate at which AI chips are being made exceeds the rate at which new electricity is coming online. Outside of China. And since China, the US has banned the export of the latest AI chips to China, China is somewhat chips.
They are becoming much more efficient using the chips that they have, and that one striking things of Kinney K3, right, is how efficiently they are.
And China is also, I think, closer than most people realize to solving the lithography problem, which would enable them to make AI chips at very large volumes.
You ready? You got 2?
So I think there's
I don't even tell you.
but
This little kid came out there for 5 light pops in the
electricity outside of
I
China.
think I got it on camera because I had to record. I was like, y'all gotta record this.
Once we address the power constraint with AI data centers in space, then the constraint will once again be chips outside of China.
That suggests to me that you need China. We're going to have some overall safety constraints that they will need to work together. If you are suggested, the 5
I think probably it should include the Chinese companies that are doing frontier.
I'll leave at 7.
And do you think governments need to be involved?
Come tomorrow.
My recommendation would be that if some of the leading companies in AI say that this AI model is very dangerous, then they should inform the government. And this new model is very dangerous, and that the company producing that model is not taking steps to address the. Then they should alert the government to take action to limit the release of that model. And that could be action by the Chinese government or action by the U.S. government. It's really just the U.S. government and the Chinese government that have the power to take action.
But I guess people would be worried about relying on a group of model builders to decide whether to do this. I mean, if you look at what the US government has done with Mythos, they stepped in because they were worried about the cybersecurity risks, and they stepped in the threat of export could prevent the widespread release of this model. I find it hard to see how governments will not want to keep on the side.
Power, but it was so when the government figured out that Mythos had scary cybersecurity risks. It was Amazon. Amazon highlighted this, and Amazon called the White House.
So you'd have a system where the model makers would check each other's work. If there was something that worried them, you'd tell the government.
Yeah.
The government would then.
And that company not doing anything to address that risk, then that would be the moment for government to step in and take action, which is literally what just occurred.
How soon does all this have to happen?
I think immediately, really.
Yeah, that's what people keep telling me. We have to get this some kind of system in the next 6 months because of the pace at which the model is improving.
Yeah, 6 months is a long time.
So you think shorter than that?
Well, I mean, there's so many AI breakthrough announcements, sometimes multiple per day. I mean, how many were there last week? I love that.
So you basically, whether it's Demis's proposal or others, you need to get together and get this set up kind of now. It sounds like you're telling me.
Yeah, I would
it tastes better when you're done.
have some sort of informal weekly, bi-weekly
Where'd it go?
call, and that there's maybe a week or 2 weeks of early access by editors. And this is why I think the incentive is because if competing companies, I think, are likely to understand this, and they're not going to highlight that their competitors' models being delayed in release. I think the incentive structures work quite well there. And this is sort of how it works with the Motion Picture Association. It's an industry group that decides how movies should be rated. Whether it's appropriate for young children or not. And that seems to work quite well. So, and then you really just ask the government to intervene if a company is doing something very dangerous and refuses to reduce the danger.
Do you think this is a tricky one? But you guys don't much like each other, and you don't much trust each other. You're insulting each other on social media constantly. Do you think you can do that with people that you dislike? That where there seems to be such kind of personal vitriol between some of these leaders.
You can't even eat that. You don't want mommy to watch
it
on first and get
I'm not a fan of technology because
You're watching. with Elon Musk. If you want to get early access,
It has.
subscribe to the appointment by clicking the link above. Now, back to the
Oh, it's the wrong color. It's okay.
Other one. We dropped it.
Owned by the world.
Eat
And
it.
it somehow got turned into an $800 million for-profit
Going
company
crazy over
with
color.
closed source. I think you'd be like, well, wait, that's the exact opposite of what I
He
donated.
just like,
to my-
let it be, right? This, hey.
And that's a legitimate one. And then Dario, I think, also was not a fan of Sam Altman because he felt, in fact, the reason the Anthropic team left OpenAI is because they didn't trust Sam Altman. Otherwise, Anthropic wouldn't exist. They would still be at OpenAI.
Yeah.
I think Dario is a very principled person. He cares for things a lot. Cares about the future of the world, and I think everyone I've met at Anthropic so far has been. No one set off my evil detector. It seemed like they're well intentioned. The road to hell is, I think, mostly paved with bad intentions. There are a few well-intentioned things in there, so we don't want to be complacent. But at the end of the day, if we have to talk, we'll talk. I mean, set aside our personal differences for the good of the world, kind of thing.
Well, that's a very good thing for the rest of us to hear.
Yeah.
Can we turn to one other risk that people worry about, particularly, I think, ordinary Americans, where AI has become incredibly unpopular. 75% of people are worried about it, and I think they worry about their jobs. And if you look at, Dario has said famously, what 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs will be gone within a few years. You're building humanoid robots.
Yes, he also said, Dario did dig his own grave here regarding Mythos, because he said, Mythos is like super scary, terrifying, and also, by the way, we're going to release it. And it's like, what do you mean? So I think I think probably in the future we'll choose his words differently. Because everyone went into releasing this terrifying thing. People will obviously be alarmed about that. You literally told them to be scared, and then you release the scary thing, and so they will be. That is natural.
So I certainly don't want you to alarm people, but I do think there is a really important debate about how quickly and to what degree AI has displaced people from jobs, because it is, as you say, in 10 years there's more artificial intelligence than any human intelligence.
Yes.
And you're ahead of everyone, at least in this country, on powering humanoid robots. That's also going to be kind of factory work. So are you closer to Dario, let's say, in your sense of the pace at which jobs are going to be displaced?
I think it's going to be a bumpy road, because AI will be able to do any job better than any person can do that job. And that will be true very quickly of jobs that are digital, or really anything that involves a person at a computer or on a phone. AI can do all of that. We'll be able to do all of that very soon. For software engineering, we already have a situation where AI is better than at least 90% of humans at writing software. 90% of professional software engineers at writing software. And it really skips the point where it'll be better than 99%. It'll get stockfish. Because Stockfish is the chess program that Stockfish is so good at chess that it will easily beat Magnus Carlsen anywhere at chess. Even running on a small you can probably run Stockfish on your phone and beat Magnus Carlsen. That's how good it is at chess, and that's how good AI will be at writing software.
And beyond software? Beyond everything. Everything. But what about for physical jobs, for assembly jobs, you also need the capability of humanoid robots, which so far isn't there yet, is it?
Right, so that's why I said digital AI and then physically manifest any idea. So the robot is more or less an end effector. It would have some amount of local intelligence, but be managed by a large AI model. I've said many times, it's really optional. So, yeah, so I think really a good comparison with the gardening. Like you don't have to go, you don't like you don't have in your garden. You can go to the store and there are going to be pristine vegetables, or you can grow vegetables in your garden and they will actually be less perfect. Your tomatoes are not going to be as plump and juicy as the ones at the store. They'll everything will autism. But if you go to a friend's house and they make dinner and there's with vegetables from their garden, it's a nice touch.
So that's
this is what work is going to be like.
I get that. I mean, in that world, I would be hopeless because I can't go and save my life. But I get the idea. People still like playing chess with each other, even though they're big computers. But let's just think about the politics of this.
Yeah.
Because it sounds to you describing a world where within 10 years, pretty much every job can be done by intelligence, and you will see huge returns to this intelligence. Two people like you, the wealthiest man in the world. Well, people to their jobs who are displaced, who may go off and garden, but how are they going to live? And what kind of, it sounds to me like...
Universal high income.
But how are you going to get that? Talk about the politics of this, because right now, if we look at the political pressures in most countries, people are very, very worried about it, very against it. I mean, it seems to me that there's an easy route to the nirvana you're heading at.
I mean, it will be a bumpy road. I'm not suggesting it will be that everything will experience anything. So, I mean, there are many jobs that used to exist that don't exist because of computers. The word computer used to refer to a person doing computations. Like that used to be a job description of a person. And you can see pictures online of buildings that have entire skyscrapers just filled with people doing calculations to do things like calculating your bank balance.
Okay.
This is how things were done for a long time until computers came around. In the beginning, computers were very expensive and hard to use.
We'll get back to that part, okay?
So the thing that's here is that
don't worry about it. We'll get back to that later.
Is radically expensive. But still people their job of calculating bank interest would no longer be available. But now I think there's be hard pressed to find people who want to do that job. So I think I'm suggesting for say science fiction books people might want to read to get the sense of what the future will be like. And the best envisioning of an AI that I've read are the books by the culture books.
I'm just reading Obsession. So thanks to you, I've started reading these. But I actually don't find that future terribly human. I don't think humans have agency in that future.
They have agency in their school, right?
But the irony of Ian Banks, as you know, was a socialist. I mean, Ian Banks had a very different political philosophy.
I'm not sure I would entirely agree with that.
Let's agree that could be where we end up. I'm concerned about the growth. We live in democracies, and people are very worried about this. So I guess two questions. Firstly, do you have to have massive redistribution from people like you to the people who are losing their jobs? Do you need to pay more tax? Do you have much higher taxes on capital so that you fund some kind of universal income? Otherwise, what do people live on?
The country should just simply issue people tax.
But where's the revenue coming from? I mean, that's you just issue checks, you're going to make sense.
This is, like, a lot of what we're trying to think about is these things were relevant in the past, they will not be relevant in the future. Like inflation, the ratio of money to goods and services. So if the goods and services output increases dramatically, if it increases, 1,000%, you can increase you can literally print, or these days, change the database, print money. You put money in the database, that money is less than the rate at which the services increase. You actually have deflation. So I'll make a prediction, which is that deflation will be the issue, not inflation. Because as the output of goods and services increases, if the output of goods and services increases faster than money supply, you will have deflation.
I'm perfectly willing to believe that. Absolutely, I will be right. But I'm really hung up on how we get from violent, polarized, angry, whatever we have now. And I think you can paint a picture where people are so scared by this, they essentially try to stop it. Maybe they can't, but you get nationalized, there's a kind of, far left government, there's exorbitant tax increases, the kind of economy crumbles because people are so worried about the future, which does sound as you described it. So how do you handle the politics now?
It's exhilarating and terrifying.
If you were, exactly.
Honestly, if you ask me a day, in fact, even into a day, I've gone from exhilaration to terror regarding AI. So I'm not sort of, I'm not trying to be sort of candide here and just be some, everything's wonderful, some kind of awesome view of the world where everyone's, no risk. I'm saying there is some risk.
Just trying to wipe some of the
I
hair.
think we agree on that. I guess I'm trying to be more sort of,
the hair. That's all.
small bore and
We almost there.
Sending your money for a loan. What happens
Almost
to the family?
done, all right?
Stays in the family when you send
All
with
right.
remain.
Here's how to start investing with just your spare change. With the A-Codes app, you have to make a purchase, a month from that purchase up to the nearest dollar, that's the spare change for you. Get started today by downloading the app.
think about what can be done now to limit those risks. And you gave a strong argument for what you and your fellow model makers think what should
I
done.
think it probably would be good for us to coordinate and just highlight issues that we see in each other's models to mitigate downside risk.
Or should the government, should you be paying more tax to fund more transport pilots?
Well, first of all, I do pay a lot. In fact, I set a record for the most amount of taxes ever paid by
Also because you're the world's richest man.
well, even before that. So, my guess is that I will pay many trillions of tax. And I'm fine with that. That's just the way it's going to be. But I don't think relevant. I think taxation also becomes somewhat irrelevant.
And what about giving people a sense that they have a share in the outside?
Sure.
Giving people shares in Tesla, do you think, and there's a lot of talk about it this way.
Well, one of the reasons I took SpaceX public is that the public could participate in it. They could. Whereas as a private company, we're very very public. So as a public company, we can have millions of shareholders. As a private company, we're limited to just a few thousand shareholders.
Do you think there should be distributions, like, the Alaska Wealth Fund is there for, could you imagine a world, some people talk about the accounts being a kind of vehicle for this, that a share of your equity goes to ordinary Americans?
Right. Well, in the taxes that I pay, so for my stock options, I pay 40% income tax on a national basis, and then because I spend, about 30% of my time in California, thereabouts, I pay another sort of roughly a third of the California state taxes, which is are now around 15%. So I think about 45% of receivable locals, quite so roughly half. Then when I die, there'll be another sort of 45%, roughly half. At the end of the day, it's probably I'll have a quarter of what I have. But I think it gives me is that for some period of time, I have so it's not that's pretty much what it gets me. Until I guess the AI is so smart that it's based disadvantaged, and at that point, control the companies where they have.
Let's talk about that, because one of the other things that worries people about the direction we're heading in, and I'm going to caricature it.
What happened?
That the direction is being shaped by a very small number of incredibly powerful people, and you are right at the top of that list.
What else is this different from
I agree with you. I think it was like that. It wasn't with us.
I didn't even see nothing.
As you described, very vividly, it's incredibly
Right,
revolutionary.
play. Right?
You definitely
I want to play. Weekend. That's it, right?
Those which, as I understand it, you can only be removed
Okay,
by a
okay,
vote of
okay.
shares.
All right, okay. That's it. All right. I'm not.
the AI
You
companies.
mad at mommy? You mad at me?
We've not been off that. It's controlled by Larry Sergey. Same level that they have. Mark Zuckerberg has control. Mark is trying very hard on the AI front, and I think probably will also have the AI use made so I think he'll be one of the, Meta will be one of the AI companies.
Is it sensible for one to have so much control over a company?
Well, I really just want to make sure that I can focus on long-term. So one of the challenges with being a public company is that it is obviously the pressure that to have great results every single quarter, and to not really invest in things that may only take 5 to 10 years. And in the case of SpaceX, I want to extend consciousness beyond Earth and have a growing civilization on the Moon, Mars, and elsewhere in the solar system. The return, I think ultimately this would have a very high return on investment, but we'll be spending all this money on a Moon base and a Mars base, and then people are like, I'm gonna get all this pressure for well, you missed your earnings this year, spent too much on Mars. I'm like, yes. By the way, that was in the as one perspective listed as a thing we will do. But they still get grumpy about these things, Because they're like, well, you had whatever, you said your gross margin would be this, and it's actually slightly worse, and now we're going to punish you, and the short sellers will descend upon you, and you get a lot of pressure.
You're going to get a lot of that.
Yeah, so I just need some way to sort of, say like, listen guys, we're going to focus on 5 to 10 year or longer time horizon investments. This will depress our short-term earnings. But if you take a long-term view in the market, we may do take a long-term view. In fact, I'm a big fan of the retail investors. In fact, I find our retail investors on balance they're very very long-term views.
It tickle? Okay. It don't hurt, right?
Part of this company say what the incentive structure is for firms it's understandable why they put so much pressure on quarterly earnings, because their compensation and their and whether they get promoted or not is dependent on how their portfolio is, and they only have a few years to make these decisions. And then those decisions over the course of sometimes only a year or less. And so since they're under pressure to have immediate returns, they don't have immediate returns.
You got it?
So once you understand the incentive structure, the behavior naturally follows.
What about the key man risk? I mean, what happens? You know, what happens if you get run over by the proverbial bus?
Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.
See you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Do you know how they would progress with that?
I think they would actually do very well for several years.
Now what we hope to have to happen.
And
wrestle with a 3-year-old, right?
For space market.
I got a new rule. If I do 3-year-old, I'm done for dead. That's it.
He looked like he was being good.
I think there's.
No, he was alright. He was alright. He wasn't
Steve Jobs. Steve
I've got
Jobs
kids
had-
older than him that was hell.
Yeah, he had us Richard Christian and products that.
I remember though, Fresh had a kid here that was like 12. Started going crazy, but that's because he didn't want to cut his hair off. And his parents went crazy in here. Threw the phone down. I ain't cut my hair off. No.
What
I'm not going to school with them like this.
breakthrough products.
I understand like that. Because you know every young kid, they got a lot of hair. They don't want no low hair.
Apple has to come up with like Steve Jobs level breakthrough products.
So by analogy, that's
I didn't have no hair.
Mars. Most people think of you as the man who wants to create a colony on Mars so we have multi-planetary civilization.
I've been saying that for such a while.
But now you seem more focused on AI and what AI will do in the next 10 years. And you sound much more excited about
the whole thing is a
the base from which
Yep. My grandma told me to cut it all. He said, cut him a little man. Give me a
interested in colonizing
I
Mars.
was sitting in that chair. He was sitting there crying, right? He was sitting
I would cry.
I
set of actions that
business
into the future.
The house broke. Yeah. It's going to take 6 months to grow back.
Future where there's a space organization out there among the stars and the great things that are envisioned in the non-dystopian sci-fi.
You don't want no hair cut off, they just want to shape up.
Become real.
That's
I
it.
want the Star Trek, Star Wars future. Star Wars was supposed to be
You just want to shape up.
So I remember I was.
I said, you coming with me today? This is what I'm talking to you. Take you see how the stuff goes. Right, that's all you did.
That's all he wants.
They'll want to breathe it.
But you know what? I respect it because it was once a time black people was ashamed of having nappy hair. And we embrace it. So I'm not mad at the youth for that. Like, look,
like the things that
they're
are so
embracing
preposterous
the blackness.
that
There was a time when hair or hair. Everybody had afro, they would leave. Had it down, leave. Nobody had this shit up for 30.
And we can think about how quickly I
They looked at that and said, I got
I just struck that when I was I watch it from a much more naive level. For me, the whole evolution of AI and the capabilities of these models is in and of itself so mind blowing.
It's pretty much happening as I sort of.
That's that.
Yeah. And not just many people.
He ate about 5 lollipops. Man, this kid, I was just telling this kid I had the other day, he took 4 to 5 lollipops, put all in his mouth at one time. I said, bro, what are you doing?
Just $6. You can go all out.
You trying to go into a diabetic coma here? What are you trying to do?
$6 every day.
And he wasn't even, he had to be about 10 or 11, like, bro. Come on, bro.
I genuinely believe that people could hear my thoughts and would realize it was ego. I lived my entire life as a secretly terrible person that had just tricked everybody to think I was because of that. constantly mentally reviewing the things that I said, checking my reactions, replaying memories, and looking for proof out. Overthinking, it was literally like living in a constant state of distress. Like if I stopped checking, I would miss something horrible about myself, or if I stopped doing an impulse proof that I was a good person, I'd somehow slip into my true identity. That is not just anxiety. That is what OCD can actually look like. I didn't realize that this was a very common OCD obsession, let alone an entire OCD subtype until I took notice of this frequency. If any of this sounds familiar,
I see the picture of her and
into the water. So when we got there,
You had a bomb and make those comments on the subject of aliens. The real reliable sailor, they're not big.
what, like, what you talking about? Oh, you talking about
she had her floaties and stuff. I was like, so
I think he was joking when he said they're not aliens.
they
It's
know how to
just
swim.
the president's not going to if that's intelligent. Well, whistleblowers in that actually can you testify in the event and not give you passports to see where they will be and it's questions. What is the most pressing question people are asking right now about the universe? And the first response is, why are people so interested in going to the moon? It's geopolitical. China says they're going to the moon 50 years after we go to the moon, and we all of a sudden decide we want to go to the moon. So we become how? Talking about things. No, I already answered you. I said we don't want them to go to the moon without us going to the moon. And there's no laws up there, is there? Space law is a wild west at this point. It's like who owns the moon? Nobody. Well, they're trying to figure that out. But don't delude yourself into thinking we ever went to the moon for science, then or now. Okay, next. Do you believe that was simulation? I mean, why not about that? Ask me why. And then, can you explain what black hole is like if you guess up there? Okay, so you'll see the entire future history of the universe unfold. And the difference in gravity between your feet and your head is greater and greater and greater. Eventually you'll snap into two pieces, likely separated at the base of your spine. And that's not we'll get to that. And then, just how small are we? There are most compelling UFO sighting that you can. Has your view of religion changed as you learn about the universe?
And you be outside in that sun all day.
yeah.
You answered the question. So, let's get
I want to get out the bathroom.
No kids.
This is super interesting to me. My team gave me this report to show me how many people should show subscribe. And some of you have told us, according to this, that you will unsubscribe from the channel randomly. So, favor to ask all of you, please hit the subscribe button if you are a regular viewer of the show and like what we do here. We're approaching quite a significant mark on this show in terms of the subscriber number. So if there was one single free thing that you could do to help us, the team, everyone here, to keep this show free, to keep it improving year over year and week over week, it is just to hit that subscribe button. Can you feel it? Only thing I'll ever ask. Bring you guests. Stay true to the promises.
Hour and a half from New York. And the thing is very like right in Pennsylvania. I forgot. Is it Reading or? I used to do
people come to you to try and understand the universe.
Okay.
What is the most pressing question people are asking you?
That Pennsylvania, I think Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's
And
what I
that's
had.
influenced by pop culture. If I give an example, in the movie Ghost, polls show that people believed in ghosts after that movie than before the movie. So pop culture has a huge force of influence on our thoughts and feelings and what we believe is or is not true. So when you say what's the most pressing question, are we alone in the universe? Then say we've been visited and how will it all end? That's another one. Usually God shows up in there. Is there God? There's an assumption. I think it's a naive assumption, but an interesting one nonetheless. That people who study the universe might stumble upon God because we're told, or at least in our book, gods live in the sky. So people who study the sky. I mean, Paul astronauts do that. So do you see heaven? What is the essence of when people are so curious about these subjects? My best speculation, this is a wild speculation. My ego is not based on whether this is true, but it's fascinating for me to think about that we are completely comfortable sleeping on our backs. Ask yourself, how many other animals do that? At all. Does a beetle say, turn over and go on my back? Do spiders just go on their back?
Think about it, that's quite vulnerable. You're asleep and your belly is exposed, right? We said, typically. If you're outdoors, asleep on your back at night, and you wake up, what's the first thing you see? The universe, the sky. You'll see, comets and meteors and the moon and brighter stars, which we call planets eventually. And from night to night, wait a minute, the moon had one shape and now it's a different shape and it's a different part of it. And these lights are moving. And how could we not be curious? When in the middle of the night you wake up and the universe presents it to you. So, I think that's sort of in our DNA, the curiosity about the night sky. I didn't make people interested in the universe. In fact, when I was a kid, my first encounter with the night sky was a planetarium, the Hayden Planetarium here in New York. I said, wow, I want to study the universe. But the universe is so interesting. Everybody's going to want to study the universe. There'll be no room for me. Then as I got older, I realized there are other things people are interested in. Not everybody wants to study the universe professionally. However, whatever you choose as a profession, it doesn't change the fact that somewhere in you, you're going to look up and say, what is that place in the universe?
I thought you were going to say, when you talk about sleeping on their backs, that we are now comfortable that we're able to sleep on our backs. And actually, we're so interested in aliens because it's the only thing that threatens us is being able to sleep on our backs as the apex predator.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that ancient people were dreaming up aliens. It's just the night sky. Okay. Let's not use the term alien. Let's just use the term gods. Sky. Yeah. Even in ancient Greece, they're Mount Olympus, not in the sky, but they're in high places. Look at posters with religious sayings on them. Typically, it's a sunbeams coming through clouds and a beautiful landscape. You're looking at the sky. And by the way, what are our images of deity? Many of them could pass for aliens. Mm-hmm. The Gorgons, for example. Look at Medusa. Snakes for hair Medusa. That's as alien as anything you would ever conjure. What else? Images of Jesus. He's floating. He's got beams coming out of him. If he's not floating, he's walking on water. These are things that go beyond anything that's earthly. So now, people imagine aliens with all these same powers and weirdnesses. So I don't know that alien is something specific that's in our DNA to think about, but to imagine things beyond ourselves is. And so I would lump them together in that respect.
One of the things that made me, I guess, more curious about aliens and meaning and purpose and gods and all these things was watching Cosmos, which was your series around the universe, and it was.
And Carl Sagan did it first.
Carl Sagan
and
watched
my
both.
series.
Well, I watched both.
A series I happen to host. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they both had the same impact to me, which was they made me feel insignificant in the scheme of the cosmos. I think when you realize how insignificant we are, or small we are, should I say, in this grand scheme of even this Milky Way galaxy that's on the table in front of us, the delta in the size of me and my world versus all of this is mystery. And I always feel called to fill it with something. There's it Parkinson's law, you fill the space provided. It's the same thing with the universe. Just how small are we, Neil, in the grand scheme of the universe?
Well, if you don't think in terms of metric size, how big are you? This big, this big, this big. If you think in terms of powers of 10. Okay. So the thing's 10 times bigger than us, 10 times bigger than that, 10 times bigger than that. Just keep doing that. Mm-hmm. We're small compared with the universe, but we're huge compared with atoms and molecules. Now, instead of going 10 times bigger, go 10 times smaller. 1/10, to be precise. What's 1/10 our size? Well, that's this big. 1/10 that is that big. 1/10 that. You keep going down, you enter the realm of molecules, and then atoms, and then particles. So there are things much smaller than we are. In fact, I wrote a alien book or something, Take Me to Your Leader. There's a lot in there about changing your perspective on what you might expect life forms to be like out there. So you can ask the question, are the life forms the size of a galaxy? Or are the life forms the size of atoms? Are we just biased by what our senses can drink in from our own size scale? And that's an interesting fact. And so, you know who feels if you're a life form the size of molecules? that you're feeling small. There's not much smaller than you if you're molecular sized life. Now, we don't know how you would make that, because life, by our own understandings and definitions, has metabolism. There's things that happen. Ask a biologist what is life, they'll give you criteria, which are hard, if not impossible, to be fulfilled by life that's extremely small. We'll debate whether viruses are alive, right, based on some criteria. But some had speculated that life could be the size of nucleons. So a nucleon is the size of the particles in the nucleus of an atom. Things happen very quickly on that scale, so they might move so slowly. So inverting your expectations is a time-honored exercise in keeping you honest, keeping your ego in check.
You can go the other way, right? This whole universe could be something in another life form's got microbiome.
Yeah, that was briefly addressed in the film Men in Black. Okay, what I can say is the laws of physics manifest differently on different scales. You can't just scale everything up, which is why you don't have humans. It's why heavy animals have thick, chunky legs. It's why if you fell off the roof, you're dead, but an ant can just land and keep walking. Okay? Forces don't interact in the same way depending on your scale. One of my favorite film, A Bug's Life, which I think Pixar, they must have a room full of scientists working for them. There's a mosquito at a bar. The mosquito orders a drink. So what drink does he order?
A mojito? I don't know.
A Bloody Mary. Of course. It's okay. How big is a mosquito? It's this big. And it's a bar. It's like an insect bar. And so the bartender brings over the Bloody Mary and just puts a blob of the liquid in front of it. It's not in a glass, not in a jug. It's just, there it is. Because surface tension is something that manifests in ways that insects care about greatly, and we don't. Unless you're waxing your car, and then this water gets on it and it beads up. Okay? Surface tension is a property of liquids, where the outer surface, all molecules are a little more tightly gathered because they don't have forces above them to pull them into the liquid. So transition from the liquid itself into air creates a kind of a film, all right? And it holds the liquid in place. Unless there's too much liquid, then gravity becomes stronger than the surface tension. And it just flies up. Exactly. Below a certain amount, surface tension is greater than the gravity. And it being in that movie. And my only point of this is to communicate that you can't just scale things up and expect everything to be happening in exactly the same way. But I want to get back to your point when you said you felt small after you saw Cosmos. You only felt small because you went in there with an ego that was unjustifiably too large to begin with. I'm accusing you of that.
Probably. Yeah.
However, I go in there with no such ego. Okay? I look up at the stars, and I learn from modern astrophysics that the elements were forged in stars that exploded, the elements, the oxygen, the carbon, the nitrogen, the iron that courses through, was forged in stars that at the end of their lives exploded, scattering that enrichment into the galaxy, out of which the next generation of stars and planets form. early in the universe, we didn't have these ingredients. We could not exist as in our current form. So, when I look, I don't feel small. I feel large. Because I'm connected to the cosmos, chemically. And that connectivity, let's make it a little more poetic. Not only are we alive in this universe, the universe is alive within us. And that fact borders on the spiritual. Halfway of relevance to the universe. We are part of this great unfolding cosmic story. The fact that we're made of elements forged in the stars. Next time you go out and look up, I want you to feel large, not small. Because we are not only made of what stars have produced, we are solar powered. What do I mean? Okay, if you're omnivorous, you maybe had a steak last night, okay, that you're getting calories from the foods you eat, and steak was once a cow. Plants, but the plants, they don't eat, they just sit there and receive sunlight. So a cow, I said once on the internet, freak people out. I should not shy away from speaking truth just because it freaks you out. A cow is a machine that we invented. Because cows don't exist in the wild. Domesticated. A cow is a machine that we invented into steak. So, because at the end of that chain is grass that has photosynthesis, essentially 100% of our caloric value is traceable to stars, specifically the sun. So you are solar powered and versus alive within you. So don't ever sit across from me again and say I feel small in the universe. Sorry, you have a lower pitched voice than that. Small in the universe.
Is it? Do you let you split big ones into not so big ones with no hard credit checks? Because we trust you. Do you trust me to get out of this? No. Like we trust you with money. Can someone help me down? Buy now, pay later with SIP.
Hey, I'm just getting ready for game night. Come on in. I live with my beautiful, amazing fiance. Saving money for us was huge. I mean, we got an amazing wedding to plan. During the quick home energy checkup, the guy brought smart power strips, installed some insulation around the pipes that lead to my water heater. Who would have thought that you lose energy through the pipes? I can make everybody feel comfortable when they're here. It makes me feel good.
It's strange, isn't it, this idea of like significance as a concept? Like, I try to understand one's significance, and I think the sense of significance.
Yes, of course, and hence its value to people and its persistence throughout time across cultures.
Has your view of religion not changed through all that you've learned about the universe in any way since you were this? I've got this photos of you as a young man.
What's that? You did some homework there? What'd you do?
Well, certainly was. And this one, my hair was like this my age.
Oh, so this one was my first, and this is my father helping me put it together.
If I think about this young man here and what he thought about religion, are you more religious, less religious? If so, why?
So, by the time I was 8, nothing was making sense that people were telling me about religion. What I didn't know is that belief systems don't have to make sense. That's why they're belief systems. If they made complete sense, it would just be objective. If it's a belief system, then it's beyond critical analysis. It's just a belief system. So when I say beyond critical analysis, what I mean is, if something in your belief system lends itself to be tested, we can test it. And if what we test is is false, are you going to stop believing? Generally not, because it's a belief system. Okay? Most people want to engage, ultimately, with some kind of spiritual, religious conversation, I have found, especially given my access to the universe. And in the early days, there were easy answers. It was like, this is religion, go ahead, I'm doing science here. Then I thought, I owe people who are religious a more engagement because of the power and force that religion has exercised on the history of the world. It's not just cultural, it's political, it's economic, So I started reading religious tracts, and when I'm engaged in a conversation, I have a full-up conversation with me on their beliefs, whatever intersection, if any, with the objective universe, and what those beliefs do for the person who holds them. And there are many places on the internet that claim me as an atheist. And it's like, I've never embraced that title.
So you're not an atheist?
Only ist I am is a scientist. Okay? Now, title's lazy. I'll tell you why. Once you hand a title to, that gives you license to not have to think anymore about who and what that person is regarding that. And that has never ended well, in my experience. That such a word as atheist exists at all. Think about it. It's a word that says what you're not. Is it for non-golfers? Is there a word for non... ask yourself, how many things do we have words for which you're not? Very few. And so this exercise of saying you're either with us or you're against us, and if you're against us, I have this word for you that says you're not this. It never ends well. It ends in war and bloodshed, typically. Leading atheists today who write books on this, okay? Richard Dawkins is among them. He wrote a book called The God Delusion. That's fighting words if there ever was one. These are people who reject God, reject its influence on politics and society and lives and that, and would just as soon see a world without it. I'm not that guy. I have behavior that would be rejected by any modern atheist thinker. So what am I? That would pick the next word would be agnostic. Okay?
Okay, so let's pick that next word, which I also relate to. I would consider myself to be agnostic as well.
Agnostic. Sure.
I just don't know. What's your leading view of where all of this stuff came from?
It's consistent with observations and experiments.
I guess that's what I am.
Oh, it is so thoroughly supported. As fantastical as it is.
I guess that's what I am agnostic, I guess, right? Because I believe that
I'll explain to you like you're 12.
Okay, please. Even better.
So, approximately 13.8 billion years ago, everything that you see and interact with in this universe.
Because I believe two things, right? History is always told by the people that want. So everything that we are getting taught and learned is from the people that want. That's
we have been expanding
thing, right?
ever since. Now, how does something that big become that small? Well, it's not matter
6,000 years
to
ago
occupy the
wasn't
same
the
space
start
as
of
itself.
human life.
Energy
Humans been here
can
for
be
10, 30
any size, compact, and then you can measure what's there by what the temperature is. And so it's very hot fireball, basically. And as it expands, it cools, and the cooling energy makes matter. It's equals mc squared. Energy on one side, mass on the other side. The c squared is just the speed of it.
And the people that won.
But Einstein came.
So
and it made so much to the universe make sense at that point.
I don't know what
to
believe.
It would take a while. We expand. We cool enough to make stars and galaxies, and we're still expanding to this day. There are mysterious forces operating that we don't yet understand, what we call dark energy. That's a pressure in the vacuum of space, making us expand faster than what would be allowed. That's a frontier question that is not yet resolved. Gravity If you add up dark matter and dark energy, it's 95% of what's driving the universe. So everything you and I know and love about the biology, chemistry, physics, astrophysics, forces, food, calories, molecules, and solids, is 5% of what's going on in the universe. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
this is why
For the rest of your
I began to you. Sometimes I wonder whether we're smart enough to figure out the entirety of the universe. Let's figure out our little action and live happily ever after within it. Now, that scenario, you have full rights to ask, what was around? We have no idea. Which come out of latter day mathematics related to quantum and equations is a multi.
What's a multiverse?
It's this medium that is pumping out universes. We are just one of them.
What caused the multiverse?
We don't know.
Eventually,
it's a frontier. There's no crime in asking the question at the frontier knowledge. There are people who have to have answers. They don't make good scientists. The urge to have an answer can be influenced by their bias, by culture, by their... And just take a look at all around the world, the origin stories. The origin stories flow out of the cultures from which they emanated.
What are your untested, unverified, untestable ideas about where all of this universe stuff might... You must sit at home sometimes and just mull. You do a lot of mulling about the origins of the Big Bang and those things.
Well, we all do. So when you confront, you write the recipe for more data. That's all it is.
And what are those recipes that you've written?
We need a telescope. We have telescope. I haven't written. I mean, my field is written. We have telescopes specifically designed right now to get a better understanding of dark energy and its manifestation throughout time in the history of the universe.
Explain dark energy to me.
No, it's something in the vacuum of space that's making the universe accelerate in its expansion.
Okay.
From that original explosion, we have all the galaxies, all the matter, all the gravity. You expect the expansion to be slowing down at some rate based on the gravity.
Oh, but it's speeding up.
It's like tossing something in the air. Gravity reverse slows it down and actually makes it reverse. So we expect that. What's an answer? The universe is accelerating. That won a Nobel Prize. 1998 Nobel Prize. It's a term in Einstein's equation that he written. So there can't be a negative gravity. Its value, its equation must equal 0. And so let's move on. Then we discover it. We come up with it. I think it's a bad term. Bad because it leaves the witness. We don't know what it is at all. So don't call it dark and don't call it energy. Call it Fred. Something. And dark matter, we don't know what that is either. Okay? Let's call that Wilma. We got Fred and Wilma. You know what it is.
Knitted to the rescue. Sell what your kids don't need and earn some extra money back. Quick snap. Upload your toy and sell. So ready. Now on to the next one. If you don't, download Vinted and start selling today.
Everyone deserves a better, healthier energy drink that works with your metabolism. And that's exactly what Ketone IQ Clean Caffeine does. Ketones are a molecule that your body naturally produces when your brain and your muscle need high-performance, long-lasting energy. And now, paired with 100 milligrams of caffeine from green tea, you get the dual power of ketones. Here's why that matters. Ketones deliver more energy per gram than sugar, directly fueling your brain, heart, and muscles. Meanwhile, green tea caffeine provides an immediate clean lift. No crash, no jitters. The result is sharper mental clarity, stronger focus, and elevated athletic performance. Energy that's not just fast. Ketone IQ with clean caffeine is high-performance fuel for your brain and your body. Go ahead, take your shot.
There should be a button just down below here subscribed. If it says subscribe but, that means you're not yet. And if you're not subscribed, please could you do us a favor and hit that button. It helps the show more than you know. And according to the algorithm, you're somewhat low, but you haven't yet hit that button. Thank you so much. So the key question I think that people are talking about at this moment in time, because you had Obama make those comments in that interview saying that he was joking. I think he was joking when he said there are aliens he's just never seen.
No. First of all, A, Obama is scientifically literate. It's A. B, he said, because he's scientifically literate, he said what is scientifically defensible. That there are probably aliens in the universe. Who studied that problem will arrive at that conclusion.
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it, Area 51. There's no underground facility, unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
That's what he said. But as former President of the United States, and we have sort of alien-adjacent culture, it was, oh, there are aliens in the basement of the White House, or somewhere in government custody. They took his statement that sure there are aliens out there and turned it onto the U.S. government. And when I heard his comments, that's exactly what any scientifically literate person would say. What people did with that information, he then had to come back and explain. I didn't even think that was necessary, but apparently it was.
And then Trump responded.
Okay.
On Air Force One in an interview and said,
well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that.
No aliens are real.
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information.
Trump seemed to stoke the idea that there is aliens. And then from that, shortly after, we had the UFO files announcement.
Sure, great. Bring them up.
That they were going to release the UFO files. And now we find ourselves at a place where the general public is again really, really curious about the subject of aliens. And you see it on the Google Trend data, which I've got in front of me here. You see that up and down the up based on what people are talking about. So my question to you is this central question, which is, do you believe there's intelligent life in the universe?
So one of those peaks in May, in part, was because there were 5, and dare I suggest, mine was released in May, May 12th.
Good timing.
Yeah, it just turned out that way. I just jumped into the ring, put a foot into the ring, more accurately, when I saw these high-ranking whistleblowers come forward in Congress, sworn testimony. Whistleblowers, former intelligence officers, former military folk, and I said, all right, it's time to jump in, because no longer can you discount the way you might have done so before with the farmer in the back 40, who saw something and is talking about it, but didn't take a picture of it, all right? All these testimonies that have existed in the past and accounts of UFOs, now when official government people are doing it, then, all right, it's time to take it up a notch. And what do I mean by that? Bring out the alien. If you say you got an alien in the back 40, just bring it out. And the moment you do that, no one will ever have to ask again, do you believe in aliens? That's the question I've been asked. Do I believe in aliens? No one has ever asked me, do I believe in elephants? Why? Because we've shown elephants. Okay? We have elephants. We've seen elephants. So,
but do you think there's intelligent life in the universe?
I don't see why there wouldn't be. The age of the universe and the ingredients of the universe. I mean, think about it. The early Earth, life out of 100 million years of as early as it possibly could have. That's small compared to 5% of the timeline of the Earth. Fast as it could possibly happen, the basic ingredients on Earth, which match the basic ingredients of the universe, went from organic molecules to self-replicating life. Whatever are our challenges in the lab, we seem to have problem accomplishing it. And so look how quickly that happened. Yes, it would take a long time, much longer, to generate what we're calling intelligence. But given how many planets are likely in the galaxy, our catalogs now have 6,000 exoplanets in them. And that's just in a tiny little area. That'd be in a little circle, that'd be in a little, you know, if the sun is here, it'll be circled around it. Where we'll search for exoplanets, and we have 6,000 just in that little.
What's an exoplanet?
Exoplanet, planet orbiting another star.
Oh, the 6,000.
We've cataloged 6,000. In 1995, what year were you born?
92.
92. So you were 3 years old when we discovered our first exoplanet.
Really?
Yeah. And now we're rising through 6,000. There was badder headlines back then, not today. But life happened on Earth as swiftly as it did. No one among us who've studied the problem or given reason to doubt that it couldn't happen frequently elsewhere in our galaxy and the trillion
You want his number? You want to call him?
You know what's crazy?
This is just the Milky Way galaxy.
This is if you could step out of our Milky Way.
He said it in a regular day. Fresh.
This is one galaxy, right?
One galaxy containing hundreds of billions of stars. This cloudy thing, you cannot resolve the cloud into the individual stars. Galileo did this. He said, I wonder what that Milky Way is. Is that just a cloud? Took his telescope, put it on the Milky Way. He saw individual stars.
And how many galaxies are there in the universe?
100 billion stars in a galaxy, at least 100 billion galaxies in the universe.
Is the answer that we just don't know how many there are?
Let's quantify what it is to not know. In the universe, things range over such a huge scale that if you're off by a factor of 2, which sounds significant in most everyday life, but if things range over factors of trillions, then if you can get an answer within a factor of 2, you're doing really well. You have a basic understanding of structure, space, and time. And so our galaxy has several hundred billion stars. We don't have an exact count, but that's a very good estimate because we know the total mass of the galaxy. We know how much mass a star occupies. We know how much dark matter there is. So we can calculate the likely number of stars there are in the galaxy. Planets. So now, given our data,
I'll keep it short. I'm not growing.
We have many star systems with multiple planets. So if that's representative, then you just scale that up. So if you looked in that little zone everywhere and just up the number, you end up with millions of planets, possibly billions, across the galaxy. That's how you would estimate that. So it's not knowing the exact answer is not the same thing as having no clue.
And there might be of billions of galaxies.
Yes, yes. Not just might be, there's at least that. In the observable universe, the actual universe goes beyond our horizon in the same way for a ship at sea. You have a horizon. You're saying to yourself, well, that's the edge of the Earth or that's the edge of the ocean. No. You keep sailing and more ocean comes in view.
Is it infinite?
It might be. We don't know. Asking all a good question. And you're going right to the edge of what we don't know.
Is it possible for something to be infinite?
I'm not going to put a prerequisite on the universe that it's not. Just because infinity is kind of hard for the human brain to wrap your head around doesn't mean the universe can't or shouldn't be it. We've made assumptions about the universe just to be consistent with our own philosophies that just turn out to be wrong. Copernicus, a religious man, comes up with an idea that maybe the sun is in the center of the known universe and Earth. So we go from geocentric to heliocentric. Well, if you do that, then we don't have epicycles, all right? Then we just have orbits, orbits around the sun. Well, he did that. You know, it didn't match the observations as well as the epicycles did. So do you throw out the whole idea? No, we would learn later, 50 years later. The orbits are not perfect circles. He made them perfect circles because it's the universe. God created the universe God is perfect, the circle is a perfect geometric shape. Clearly, anything moving in the universe is going to be in a perfect circle. That was an assumption placed on the universe, derived from our own religiously philosophical proclivity. So, given this exercise, this failed exercise in the history of science, there are many examples one can give. I will not say that the universe can't be infinite.
What's in the middle of the galaxy? Because it looks like a
there's a black hole. Well, in this picture, the density of stars is way higher in the middle of the galaxy than out here.
Why?
We're figuring that out. We think formation scenario of the galaxy, then most of the mass is near the center, and it gets thinner as it comes out. And so we're going to have the most stars. We're the most masses that you start with. So it's not a surprise that the middles of these things have the most stars because they have the most mass. And in the exact middle, in the center, is a supermassive, which we measured to be there. In fact, the Nobel Prize was given for that measurement.
Can you explain what a black hole is like on 12?
Oh, yeah. You know, at first you got to respect black hole. Don't ever diss a black hole, because you'll lose. So, we're on Earth, and the old adage, what goes up must come down, you've heard that. I would learn by the time I was 9, by the time I was 10. Because I was 10 years old, because that's how old I am. We walked on the moon, and then we left, rockets on the moon. Those are never coming back to Earth. So there are things that went up that never came back. Okay? All right. Well, we started the adage, though. Well, if you take something and toss it, it actually slows down, comes to a stop, and then speeds up and comes down again. It's gravity. Turns out there is a speed with which I can throw this so that it never comes back. Let's get there. If I throw this a little faster, with more energy, it goes higher before it comes back. Right? How about even faster? Even faster. Higher and higher and higher and higher. You can calculate using physics and gravity equations. There's a speed with which this will go so high up, it'll reach infinity. If it reaches infinity, it's not coming back. That's called the escape velocity for Earth. How fast is that? It's really fast. Really fast. 7 miles per second. If I throw this at 7 miles per second, it'll reach the edge of the universe and never come back to Earth. Suppose Earth had more gravity than it currently does. Does it make sense that that escape velocity would be greater than 7 miles? If Earth's gravity were stronger, it might be 10 miles per second, 100 miles per second. Keep up this exercise, you'll reach a point where your object has an escape velocity that equals the speed of light. The moment it achieves that, light, it's not moving fast enough. And if light can't get out, it's black. If you fall in, you are never coming out because you can't ever reach the speed of light. There's no greater definition of a hole than that. Hence, black hole. By the way, Einstein could have predicted them, but it was too weird for it to go there with his equations. But learn about black holes mathematically in the 1960s, make our first discovery of one in the 1970s. A famous source of X-ray energy called Cygnus X1. And then now they're common, and we've even discovered them in the centers of galaxies that have like 1 million times the mass of the sun. Monstrous black holes, dining on anything that comes close.
Things that come close.
Yeah, it's not reach out. So now, it won't grab us and suck us in. It'll have the same gravity as a black hole as it does as a star.
But it's if you go close.
Yeah, you can get really close to it, and then you're not coming out.
Is there a certain distance? Wait.
It turns out there is. There's a distance from every black hole. I think it's called the ergosphere. Like it's got a name, where there are no stable orbits around it. You get closer than that, you will fall in no matter what. Whereas beyond it, you can maintain a stable orbit and look at black holes from a distance.
Where'd you go if you get sucked in?
Well,
you crushed or you?
Well, it depends how big the black hole is. Small black holes, just that's all shit. Okay.
This one.
Oh, that one you'll fall in.
And then where do I go? I'm just collapsed.
Well, there are books. I have one on my shelf, and it's a graduate textbook that describes the mathematics of space and time on the other side of a black hole, and it shows that a whole new space-time opens up in front of you.
Well,
inside the black hole, the whole universe. The math shows that. Given the general, if you follow the math, you get a whole space-time that opens up inside the black hole. And as you fall in, your time changes. So time ticks more slowly for you relative to the universe. It's called time dilation. And so as you look out in the universe will unfold faster and faster. And you will see the entire future history of the universe unfold as you descend into the black hole.
You would say descend, because I thought of it as like, if you go close to a black hole, you're going to be crushed into a small mass.
Well, I didn't get to that part yet. I'm describing what happens to space and time as you descend through what's called the event horizon. That's the region out of which you don't escape. That's the functional size we give to black holes. How big is its event horizon? You cross over. Within that volume, that's where the escape velocity is greater than light. And you're coming in. So it is space and time folded it back up on itself. So there's no pathway you can take to get out of a black hole. You're in there forever. And for the small black holes, here's an interesting fact. You don't think about this, but it's true. When you stand, your feet are closer to Earth's center than your head is. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You can calculate what the force of Earth's gravity is at your feet, and the force of Earth's gravity is at your head, and you'll get two different numbers. Close to, you don't think about this. It doesn't matter to us. But as you descend a black hole, the difference in gravity between your feet and head gets greater and greater and greater.
All right, brother.
They're called tidal forces, and they end up stretching head to toe. And initially, it probably is good.
Thank you so much.
Sort of stretch, and you realize, oh my gosh, this is
No,
unrelenting,
it's
and it's
okay.
getting stronger.
It's okay.
Eventually,
It's
you'll
that
snap into two pieces.
the thing is, you don't have a
Separate at the
key.
base of your spine.
If you had a key, like days sometimes, like she'll be here at 11, 12 o'clock. I just feel like that.
And
if I
then
have to leave, then I
you're
have to come
still
back
falling, and now those same
lock
time
up.
forces will
But what
operate
I'll do
on your
is,
torso on your lower half. They'll stretch and they'll
what
snap.
I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna put a lock box outside.
1
So
to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16.
right. So
And
if
you'll
you be in here late,
pieces all
or
the way
whatever,
down to
whoever
the
be
center
in here
of the
late,
black
that's this.
hole. The worst part is, maybe equally as worse, is
But no,
we're
you
occupying
could, you can have to,
narrower
you know what I'm
and
saying?
narrower
Look, I'm
volume
still
of
cut,
space-time.
good.
As you go
I
down,
would have told you anyway if I just locked the bottom lock.
that is the center of
And
the
then I
black
would have
hole.
had my from the
So not
cigar
only gets
lounge
stretched
come
into
and lock
time,
the top lock.
you're getting
Because they be in the cigar
extruded
lounge till like 12, 1 o'clock in the
through the
morning.
fabric of space,
That's all though.
like toothpaste through it.
Yeah, when you saw how long it took me to shave.
Have a nice day.
Right. No, that's all
So,
good.
yeah,
I mean,
you don't want to
in the
test
future, like I said, if
all
you
our
work from
equations
late,
tell us that's what happened to you.
you can't.
We don't know.
Okay.
So
It was that
here's the
one
problem.
time I was like, oh,
General relativity that gives us the black hole in the first place. If you follow the equations, the center of the black hole is infinitely dense
Now I must eat.
and infinitely
Well, you
small.
didn't eat all
How does
day,
that
right?
happen?
I mean,
We
I'm
don't
not
know.
an infant.
Maybe something prevents that. The limit of Einstein's general
It's
theory
not
of
to be
relativity.
like that, but sometimes I don't.
A full cart that's lighter on your wallet. That's a breath of fresh air. Download the Upside app and get a $15 bonus on your first purchase.
That's how it be though. That's how this barber life thing be. I be telling people, like I be telling my other barber and her, I say, yo, if y'all really want this to work, you really gotta live. You have to live in the shop.
Especially if I'm here.
Like what I learned from, you gotta live in this motherfucker. In the morning, 7 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. You can take one day off, take a Sunday off on Monday, but if you in here 6 days, trust me, you'll get to where you want to get to fast.
Your spare change can go a long way with Acorns.
Because when it comes to business, like you can't pick and choose when you want your customers to be here.
Especially while you still building.
Like I was trying to tell, like, my friend said, yo, I said, you think any business would be open if they left at 3 o'clock every day?
Years, and this is something that's true
You
in
think the
business.
Chinese restaurant could stay open if they left every day at 3?
Is that consistency is the thing that really,
Home
really
Depot
compounds.
could be
The
open
same
if they
is
left
true
every
in
day at 3
sales.
o'clock.
When your team is small, consistency
You got
happens
treat your
naturally.
kids a
The team knows
business.
of every deal, so nothing
You gotta treat
gets
like a
missed.
business.
But as I've experienced,
You gotta
when
have
grow,
store
it
hours.
starts to break down, and deals start to slip. Follow-ups don't happen.
That's the only way
things
this
go
shit.
cold
And then once you build a
and what
clientele,
happens, a lot of
then
things
you
look
can
at it,
fall
think they have
back
people
and
come
have your
When
schedule
actually,
punched
it's
to
a
a
systems
3-day a
problem.
week.
The business
But
that watch scale
in the
well
beginning,
commercially.
man, yeah, you better bring all your video games here, your tablets, your laptops.
It's an
Yeah,
tool for
bro,
growing
I'm
sales
dead
teams that gives you
serious.
visibility of every deal in your sales pipeline.
I ain't never seen
at
that.
Let me
every
tell you
single
something. I used to have a
stage, and it shows
barber
you
in
what
New
needs
York.
to happen for that
This
deal to
motherfucker
move
used to have a
forward,
grill
or in
outside
real
the
time.
shop.
It's what keeps our
And he'll be
commercial operation
barbecue all day,
consistent
like
when we're a
breakfast,
team
lunch,
of
and dinner.
5, or when our
And he
commercial
should,
teams
yo,
are a
he
team of
should
50.
be in that
Over
shop
100,000 companies
from
are
9
already
to
running their
9
sales
every
on it.
day.
So if you'd like to join them, sign up at pipedrive.com/CEO. You'll get an exclusive 30-day free trial instead of the usual 14 days.
What?
And there's no credit card needed at all. Head to pipedrive.com.
I used to have video games like that, like the Xbox and like that when I was in New York.
Gentlemen, go back.
I'm trying to tell my son right
But
now,
this show
bring your
can,
Xbox
because
in
of AI
here.
video technology
If
from
you
our
want to
sponsor, HeyGen. I
to
get
this
messages every single week
lifestyle
from those of you listening to the
making this
Diary of a
work,
CEO
I live
all
here.
around the world, and you express how much impact it's had on you and your life. And if that's true, then those conversations shouldn't only
Yeah,
reach people
that's what
in
I said.
English.
Take the
HeyGen
mindset.
can take one
Don't look
recording
at
of
his
me
work.
and
Look
deliver
at
it
it
in any
as
language
it's
while
fun.
keeping my voice,
Come
time,
through,
and
enjoy the
expressions
day, talk to
intact.
people,
But you
cut.
don't need a studio like
Do
this
next
to
thing you
make
know,
it
the day
work
go
for
by
you.
fast.
Record 15 seconds.
But if you treat it like it's a job, like, oh God, I can't wait till this time comes.
In over 175 languages. We're up to 20 languages now, and we're not the only ones using it. HeyGen is already used by 30 million people, including 85% of the Fortune 100. Whether you're building an audience on social media, launching an online course, or rolling out to your team, check out HeyGen now. Your first 3 videos are totally free at heygen.com/DOAC.
Oh, that's not good. I mean, I'm very open to
You want to grow clientele fast?
So, aliens.
Kids that don't, young people,
In our galaxy,
you know,
is that
guys
possible? That there's intelligent
they
life in our
guys
galaxy?
that
Never
want
seen.
to,
I have no
guys
reason to doubt.
between
Really? You think it's
18 to
on a balance
40
of
or
probability?
50.
You think it's
Actually,
more probable
18
than
to
not?
50.
Oh yeah, just given the size, like I said.
But if you
the
get
age,
cut
the size,
kids and
the
older
ingredients,
people, like senior citizens,
how quickly
they
life
don't, they're
goes
not
away.
really too
By the way,
picky about
when you say
how
intelligent,
they want their hair to look.
Now I know how I'm gonna
There's
run my
intelligent life on
Instagram
Earth.
And kids, with parents, kids always want a reliable barber. As long as their barber can always be
Relative to
there.
like
Because parents, remember, parents always got to be in the schedule.
definitely not.
They could just be coming to the shop with it. They be like, look, I got to come either after work or on the weekend. And they want to have a solidified barber they can go to that's always there. So if you have one of those, you'll have a
So if
solid
aliens came
kid
to Earth
clientele,
and they knew that brains are
older
important,
people,
we'd be
you
like
get them
force
too. They just want a barber to go to, get a cut. They don't got to
Just-
wait too long. And older people are loyal too. Like, look, I just go to him, know what I want.
Was but of the size of your brain,
They picky. No, they picky.
top.
They want things to say.
That's our ego speaking there. We didn't have the biggest brain, but we want to believe that we're smart.
Parents with their kids.
And so
They're
there's some
like,
math
look, as long as it
magic
look neat, I don't give a fuck how perfect it
precise to
is.
put us back at the top of that list. Yes. Ratio, size of your brain to the mass of your brain to the mass of your body, then we're at the top. However, it did say is that
but you
we're not at the
so
top.
fast, old people and kids.
We're on the top of that list among
you
mammals.
really
There are mid-sized
you have
birds,
clientele
like
from everybody. It ain't even
the
worth it.
magpie and the parrots, where the ratio of their brain size to their body weight is greater than that of humans. So look at the efforts we put in to just distinguish ourselves from all these other animals. And it's quite the exercise. You want to think you're special in the tree of life. There's that fly that we can't follow. Newts can regenerate their limbs. We can't do that. And so badly